So who has home field advantage tonight in the championship game between Ohio State and Notre Dame? After all, it's a neutral site, right? That's what we do with championship games. Before we tackle that question, though, there's a couple of things to note here. You know, Ohio State fans, they travel as well as any fan base in the country. And Notre Dame fans, they're literally everywhere in the country. They're like a national team, right? So I've not been to a Notre Dame football game in person, but I have been to a couple of Buckeye games for BCS national championship games before, a couple of them. And I'll share one with you. It's a great story. So I was at the January 2003 Fiesta Bowl, where the Buckeyes beat Miami and Tempe in double overtime. In fact, I was on the field when that game ended. That was amazing. Something I'll never forget. To this day, I have never heard the sound of a crowd that I heard that night from Buckeyes fans. It was that split second. Remember when Miami thought they won, they started running on the field, and then that delayed yellow penalty flag, the flag from heaven, I call it. Pass interference. Game was not over. Buckeyes held tough. Buckeyes ended up winning. But that noise from the silence of when the Buckeye, because the Buckeye fans there probably outnumbered Miami fans 3-1. It was significant. Miami fans typically don't travel well. Ohio State does. It was a big championship game. And, you know, the disappointment and the sadness, thinking they just lost, the pause, the flag, the roar of the crowd when the flag came out at that point, knowing they were still alive. Never heard anything like it again in my entire career. It was something else. Buckeye fans travel, and they are into it. So most intense cheer I've ever heard. So, and then I was also at the January 2008 BCS championship at the Louisiana Superdome between LSU and Ohio State. Now, despite the game being in LSU's backyard, Buckeye fans more than held their own that night too. And the game didn't turn out the way they wanted, but the crowd was in it. It was 50-50. They were very vocal. So they come, they travel. There's no doubt. Now, one valid question we have, or at least we've had up until this point, with a newly expanded 12-team expanded playoff, would fan bases of teams that, you know, that play 3 or 4 playoff games, will they continue to shell out money for the tickets, the travel, the hotels? Will they hold back on this game, hoping they get to that game? Will they go to a couple of games? They can't afford to go to another one, that kind of thing. No, these tickets are flying off the shelves. People are going. It's a big deal. And look, you know, it costs a lot of money to go to a game. There's no question. But yeah, they're buying them up, supply and demand. There are always fans out there that want these things, and people are gobbling them up. So tonight, both sides are going to be pretty well represented in this game. Each school initially had been allotted 20,000 tickets each. Those all got snapped up right away. Now, according to some secondary market services, tickets are starting now at about $1,800. The average is $2,500. Average ticket prices for tickets to last year's Michigan-Washington game were about $1,800. So now we're up to $2,500. My point is the demand is there, and the cost is skyrocketing. A lot of people want to see this football game here tonight. Now, some secondary ticket sales reports say that 17% of their sales have come from the state of Ohio. Good tip right there that there are going to be a lot of Buckeye fans there. By comparison, seems like Notre Dame fans from Illinois and that corner of Indiana only making up about 6%. So again, these secondary market reports, 17% of the extra tickets are going to Ohio State, maybe 6% to Notre Dame fans. 6% out of Illinois, 4% from Indiana. So that's, you know, maybe 5% on the average. So it sounds like to me the Buckeyes may have a slight home field advantage for tonight's game. By the way, you want tickets? One of our regular sponsors here is Game Time. Check them out. Get yourself a ticket last minute if you want to get to that game. In the meantime, let's get ready for a great game. Let's start by talking about Ohio State. Obviously, Will Howard. Look, he's better than a game manager. He's got a pretty long ball, but he can manage a game. Got all these weapons that Chip Kelly has him firing to, and he makes a lot of good decisions, but he can throw a pretty ball. We've talked about this. If you're new to our podcast, we made a big deal last summer about how Will Howard is about a 58% career passer at Kansas State, but now he's 72% at Ohio State. He and Chip Kelly, the offensive coordinator, are clicking. They got Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbucca. They got weapons, and he's getting them the ball. They got a running game, and as good as anybody with a 1-2 punch. Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins. So they got a lot of stuff going, and they seem, in my opinion, to have overcome losing 2 starting offensive linemen as the season was going on. Lost Simmons over in the Oregon game. They lost McLaughlin, their center, the week of the Indiana game. So they've been able to, ever since the Michigan loss, they've been able to get that all fixed up and dialed in. As far as Notre Dame, we'll get to their injuries in a minute because they have a few that they've had to deal with to get to this point. First of all, they have Riley Leonard, their quarterback, a dual threat, 19 passing touchdowns, 16 rushing touchdowns. He is the focus of the offense that Ohio State will have to be very concerned with. Now, they get Jeremiah Love, who's been pretty strong. They keep telling me he's got a bad knee. He's managing a bad knee. The playoff games I've seen him play, he looks strong. He looks good. So I expect him to be good tonight. They also lost 2 offensive linemen did recently in the Orange Bowl versus Penn State, so they need to overcome that. That could be a factor in this game, again, going against the Ohio State defensive line. The defense for Notre Dame has been stellar. Their goal is to get turnovers. They are great at forcing turnovers. They played this season without star cornerback Benjamin Morrison, had a season ender. Their top interior defender, Riley Mills, was hurt. So they've had to overcome some obstacles with some injuries at Notre Dame. The Fighting Irish, of course, haven't won a national championship since 1988 with Lou Holtz. Ohio State's last national championship was the first year we had a 4-team playoff, 2014 Urban Meyer back in the day. The path that these 2 teams took this year, the Buckeyes, again, following the 13-10 loss to Michigan, which some people just found inexplicable. Why do they play that way? Boom. They exploded against Tennessee. They handled Oregon. They got the win over Texas, which was as good as any complimentary football game, offense, defense, as you'll see. Meanwhile, Notre Dame had that hiccup in week 2 against Northern Illinois, 16-14 at South Bend, arguably the worst loss of the season by any major school. And yet they overcame that. 13 straight wins, got wins over Indiana and Georgia and Penn State in the playoffs. And this is their first appearance in the national championship. Well, they haven't won since 88. They got there. They lost to Alabama in the 2012 season, 42-14 blowout there. So we're ready to go. We're dialed in, and we're going to be dialed in with you tonight. Again, remember, after the game is over, when the confetti's falling, go ahead and lock into us. Locked on Big Ten on YouTube. We're going to be going live tonight. Your comments, my comments, talking about the game, analyzing the game, opinions on the game. It's great fan reaction, my reaction, all that. And yours real live time post-game comments. Join us. It'll be around 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Pacific-ish, give or take a little bit. Kickoff is at 7:30 Eastern, probably 7:40 Eastern to be real. And we can't wait for tonight's podcast live. So please feel free to join us. All right, coming up, if you're new to our podcast, we got a lot of features in our final segment each and every week. Mondays, we always do our top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. Tuesday, we do Tuesday tweets. Wednesdays, power rankings. Thursdays, we look ahead to live scheduling on the Big Ten Network and Big Ten Classics. And Friday, we make our picks, football or basketball. So since it's a Monday, we got my top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. I'll share them with you, see if they're the same as your list. Hang around for that. It's coming up next right here on Locked On Big Ten. FanDuel makes the excitement of watching games even more exciting if you got a little something on it, right? From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. How about those games in the snow? Absolutely ridiculous. That'll hurt your handicap. You got to pay attention to weather forecasts. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300. They've upped it to $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. waiting around for your winnings, whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs. FanDuel has you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com and join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.